Norman Walsh was born in Vars and moved to Russell after marrying Eunice Sutherland in 1944. They farmed in North Russell on a 50-acre parcel of land beside his wife's parents' farm. He and Eunice had 6 kids. He worked as a foreman in house construction until he lost his job after breaking his leg. After that, while still farming, he built some houses on his own and did some renovations. He had the first contract when Russell Township decided to introduce a garbage collection service. Several years later, he worked as the custodian at Russell Public School until arthritis and a heart attack made that impossible. It was then he started his hobby of building models of old farm equipment. Norman Walsh's hobby would be considered to be folk art. Folk artists are interested in making art that tells stories about daily life or the culture of their community. Since Russell was originally a farming community, Norman's work evokes memories of times past when horses were used for all sorts of transportation, and the main work in the community was on the farm. Oxen were the original pullers of plows and wagons in the middle 19th century in Upper Canada. Because they were adult male cattle that had been castrated before they mature, oxen were not only less aggressive than bulls of the same breed, they were also larger and therefore stronger, and they developed longer legs that made them faster. In addition to being generally more docile than horses and more capable of pulling heavy dead weights, pulling stumps and stone boats, the lower feed costs and greater hardiness of oxen ensured their prolonged persistence on more marginal farms in eastern Canada. A report in 1860 claimed that while a single horse was worth $120, a good yoke of oxen could be purchased for only $90. The main reason for the marked price difference was simply that cows had to give birth annually for the manufacture of butter and cheese, and up to half their offspring would become replacement cows, leaving the males as a cheap source of draft power before being fattened for beef. While the greater speed and stamina of horses gave them a marked advantage when agriculture became more mechanized, oxen continued to be recommended as complementary sources of farm labor. By the latter half of the 19th century in Upper Canada, oxen were gradually replaced by horses. Not only could horses work 1 or 2 hours longer each day because of their ability to metabolize grain efficiently, but they became larger in size after the all-purpose breeds began to be crossed with heavy draft horses, such as the Clydesdale and the Percheron. As a result, horses grew increasingly stronger and more efficient, producing 50% more foot-pounds per second in energy than oxen, thereby facilitating an increase of farm production for the market. The upper classes were able to afford more luxurious buggies. Hotels had horse-drawn buses to bring clients to and from the train station in Russell Village. Stagecoaches were used to take mail and passengers between the towns and villages. Stagecoaches were used along the Old Forest Road connecting Russell Village, south to the thriving communities along the St. Lawrence River, and north to the village of Cumberland on the Ottawa River. Horse-drawn milk wagons and bread wagons were also used for deliveries. In the winter, the horse and cutter was a popular conveyance. The city of Ottawa had horse-drawn buses and electric trolleys. Norman Walsh was also responsible for building the scale model of the Russell New York Central Railway Station, an industrial complex that can be seen in our railway exhibit. This is a model of the Grand Old Commercial Hotel, which was located in the center of Russell Village on the corner of Mill Street and Concession Street, built in 1898 by John Kincaid. An advertisement in the Russell Leader in 1899 claimed it was equal to any hotel in the city, and it had special facilities for commercial travelers, as well as a fine livery stable. It survived the Great Fire of 1915, but was destroyed by a fire in 1991. This is a model of a pump for pumping gas into automobiles back in the day. Gasoline was pumped by hand into a graduated glass tank on the top of the pump, and gravity was used to fill the tank of the car. This is like the one that was in front of the MacArthur Warner General Store on Mill Street. The first settlers to this area built log houses and barns from the trees they cut down to clear the land. Outhouses or privies were used as toilets in the villages and out on the farms. The traditional two-seater outhouse had two holes, a larger one for adult bottoms and a smaller one for kids. Lime was often thrown down the holes to control the odors. They were very cold in the winter and had lots of flies and bugs in the summer. They were more or less permanent Johnny on the spots. Norman Walsh also made models of things used every day on the farm. Raw milk was made into cream and butter. The first photo is a cream separator, butter churn, ladle, and bowl. The second photo is a wooden washing machine. And the third photo is a functioning wooden water pump. At the beginning of the 20th century, sheaves of hay and grain were still being forked onto wagons and then forked into the grinding jaws of a threshing mill. This was hard and hot labor, and the whole community would come out to help. The first metal hay loaders and threshing machine were introduced by the J.I. Case Plow Works of Racine, Wisconsin. These labor-saving implements revolutionized farming. They are still being used by the Amish people today. Norman and Eunice Walsh celebrated 50 years of marriage in 1979, still living on their farm in North Russell and a house that Norman built. To quote from the book, From the Heart, Folk Art in Canada, by Marius Barbeau, folk art in Canada reveals a feeling for life, a feeling nurtured by memories, drawn from moments of tenderness and expressed in the restless stirrings of countless imaginations. Framed by tradition and shaped by experience, the feelings come from the heart and are shared by us all. Folk art is our art, the reflection of a search for our roots and our destiny, a search that never ends. We hope this whets your interest in visiting our museum, and we look forward to seeing you here in the future.